You don't have to be an alcoholic to stop drinking. Uh, Even as someone who only drank once a week, and on Saturdays, that was my kind of my time to shine with friends. Going 750 days without booze completely changed my life. And look, I'll be really clear. Like, I had a ton of fun with booze. I lived in Chicago for a couple years. I lived in Manhattan. I lived in San Francisco, all places with a pretty solid party culture. Going to things like Lollapalooza every year, Cubbies games, just sporting events in general, tailgates, man, going to weddings, bachelor parties, Christmas dinners, New Year's Eve, 4th of July. It was all really fun. But it also cost me, and it started to cost me my health, put on some weight. I became extremely unmotivated, after being a top number one sales rep in my company, managing sales teams, going to President's Club. All of a sudden, I started to feel just pretty lazy, pretty unmotivated. My mood consistently would drop. I would be feeling anxious. I started to take on, more and more depression. I would feel definitely the first couple days after drinking, feel things like shame and, guilt. Just that kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Ultimately, when I started to think about cutting back or going on this, hey, I'm just going to see what life is like without it, I realized it was just holding me back. It was just holding me back from the life I wanted to live, from being the person I knew I was just capable of being. Somebody with energy, somebody that, was vibrant, liked to have fun, liked to tell jokes, liked to hang out with friends, liked to be super driven and go after a goal and chase a dream. And I wasn't really that guy anymore. But it was hard because I leaned on it to be social. I used it to dance at weddings. I needed a lot for that, but I felt like I needed that. I needed it to talk to women, to have fun at concerts, to be comfortable in groups, to be able to meet and socialize with new people, right? To network with, say, my manager or my boss or my VP at company events. I just needed a little bit. And it was so interesting. There was one day I just started to ask why. Why did I always lean on alcohol in those situations? And more importantly is why did I feel like I couldn't do those things without it? Why did it feel impossible to go to a baseball game, professional baseball game, without having maybe a couple pregame beers at a local bar? And then, we walk in, I grab two tall cans before I went to my seat. That was a regular occurrence. And what's wild is, to me, there was a part of me that was defending these behaviors, right? So there was a part of me that was being like, dude, this is okay. It's not a big deal. We don't need it. We don't have a problem. Look, we only drink one day a week, maybe 2 days. So we don't need it. This crazy, cracked out drug in my mind would be like, that's not us. We just want it. We just want to have a little fun. And because we want it and we don't need it, it's okay. And so I had this almost aggressive voice really constantly trying to convince me. And at the time I didn't realize, hey, that may actually be a red flag. He's trying to talk me into keep doing a drug. But the mind is super slippery like that. And, I heard this quote that actually really changed everything for me. It kind of stopped me in my tracks. And it was the idea that, and I forget where I heard it, I forget who said it, but if drinking causes any problems in your life at all, ever, you have a drinking problem. And I was like, damn, I'd never thought about it that way before. And I started to look, I just mentioned, I was like, yeah, there's actually quite a bit of shit going on in my life that I would rather not have to deal with. And, so even though I only drank on Saturdays, what I started to see was how much it was affecting me for the rest of the week. So I started wearing this Whoop, and I would see that, hey, it would actually take me 4 or 5 days to get my biomarkers, things like resting heart rate, HRV, my recovery score that, Whoop comes up with. It would take 4 or 5 days for that stuff to get back to baseline. And I was like, holy crap. I had exited out of tech sales. I was now committed, and I was starting to find some drive again to start this start this business, what actually started out as a clothing company. And, I started asking questions like, hey, I need to step my game up. I need to start thinking like an entrepreneur. I need to start getting myself back on track because I had been so disconnected from that version of me for a long time, playing college sports, being a President's Club attendee, sales leader, etc. And I was like, I gotta start thinking like a high performer again. I gotta start behaving like it. And, if I was honest, I was like, I've never really tried to cut back on drinking or to go just a period of time without it. And so that's all I did. I was like, hey, let's just cut back a little bit. Let's go, maybe drink a little bit less on Saturdays. Maybe we skip a weekend. And so I share that because it actually took 2 years of drinking less and less before I decided to go completely without it and just see what happens. And the reason for that, I want to share this, because the reason for that was I wanted to just be intentional with it. I wanted to be like, you know what, instead of being on autopilot, drinking every single weekend, what I would really like most is if I could just, hey, my friend's birthday, we can drink, or maybe it's New Year's, or maybe we're celebrating something, a milestone for my business, right? Maybe it's New Year's, but really feel fully in control. Because if I was being honest, I wasn't really in control. There was always an excuse, always a reason to drink. So I was cutting back, and then the pivotal moment for me was I flew out to surprise my best friend for his birthday, and I didn't even drink on his birthday party, right? So I was doing really well. I was like, yeah, I don't need to drink here. I'm feeling really good. But then the next day, it was just me and him in his backyard, and he got some new beer. So I was like, perfect. I was like, this is exactly how I wanted to drink, how I wanted my relationship with alcohol to be. Let's crack open a beer, and let's just enjoy ourselves. I had one beer, and the next morning, I woke up, and I stayed in bed till like 9 or 9:30. I had the most negative self-talk, and it was the first time ever I had thoughts about how much easier it would be if I just wasn't alive. And so I had the first taste of this suicidal ideation, and it shook me so much. And I felt this part of me come online. I really started to give myself some tough love, and I was like, you know what, dude? Like, you say you want to be an entrepreneur, you say you want to be a high performer, you want to get back on track, you want to live healthy, you want to, be there for your friends and family, you want to be a role model, you want to be a leader. And I was like, and you're doing shit like this? Like, at what point are you going to wake up and realize like this is not serving you anymore? And it was amazing. So that was the day I was like, you know what? Moving forward, I'm just going to go indefinitely. It's clearly not worth it. If I'm feeling that way after one drink, it's not worth it anymore. And what I noticed immediately, like within just the first couple of weeks, because I had kind of been cutting back, but I felt this release, this no longer being attached to it or even thinking about it, right? Because I had kind of severed that tie. And almost immediately I started to feel way more clarity day to day, be way more aligned with like this greater mission and this greater purpose that I was working towards. I started to have a ton more focus. I was getting up at 5 a.m. easily. I was super motivated to just wake up every day and work on my business and socialize with friends and work out even more. And it was just like all the things I knew I was capable of started to, come to fruition. And I started to be able to execute them. Inflammation went down. As I was training jujitsu, it's like can be a heavy toll on your joints and everything. And that was a big thing I noticed. I'm like, man, just inflammation in my joints. I just feel a little bit leaner. I ended up losing 20 pounds pretty quickly. Not to mention how much money I was saving if I was going out on Saturdays having, 20 drinks or so, how much that bill can run. What was also cool was I was way less anxious and way more present, which was just an amazing feeling. And I had no idea that alcohol really had this pull on me. And the best part is, it took about 60, probably 90 days, 80, 90 days. And I never craved it again. I never thought about it. That was the hardest part for me because I always was thinking about, man, if I cut back on alcohol right now, I always think about it. So when I go out somewhere, I'm always like trying so hard to not order a drink. I'm thinking, what are they going to think? If this is just on my mind. And after 3 months, man, I never thought about it. I had no problem going out and being like, yeah, I'll get a club soda or Topo Chico or something, right? And so that was a piece that was really, really surprising to me and eye-opening that, oh man, it was almost like alcohol had these hooks in me where if I got just far enough away, it would pull me back. And once I severed that line, I felt so much freedom. So I also, it's given me, I think, some time just to reflect on, myself, what I was really seeking and what alcohol was representing for me. And I'm like, man, the more I thought about that, the more I was getting to the root of it. And I'm like, what people really want, what I really wanted was, man, I want to connect with others. I just want to be like in love with life. I just want to have more joy. I want to feel like I'm okay. I want to feel accepted. I want to feel, again, connected. I want to spend time, quality, present time with loved ones. Now when I hang out with people who are drinking and we have conversations, I'm like, dude, you're not going to remember any of this. And the depth of our conversation now is just lower and lower. But I realized, I just want to, I wanted to have fun. And I was just using alcohol as a vehicle and as a crutch and as a vice to do those things. So there's a few things, that really helped me that I'm going to share. And before I do, I just want to say, I put together a morning routine for you. If you want to get back into, having more energy, more focus, feeling healthier, start your day off on the right foot, just go into the description and check out that perfect morning routine guide, and you can get started on it immediately. Okay, so a couple things if you want to cut back on alcohol. First thing is audit your social environment. We are the product of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with, and if you are constantly putting yourself in a position where it is easy to drink, for example, if you're used to going out to bars or maybe clubs or places where alcohol is just super easy and it feels like everybody is doing it. Certainly the people you meet up there are doing it. Take a look at what that's doing actually to your behavior. If you feel like you're going into those situations and you're really, really fighting the urge to not drink, take audit of that. Take inventory, take note. And in the short term, one of the things you can do is actually remove yourself from that situation. It doesn't have to be a forever thing, but just long enough to where you can start to gain more control over these urges and these desires and just these like inclinations, right? And this feelings of peer pressure and like this overwhelming sense of like, man, it's so hard to not drink. Okay, so take note of where you are putting yourself, like the situations you're putting yourself into. The second thing is find one thing that is more important to you in your life than drinking alcohol. Meaning, like, what is your line in the sand? What is your purpose? What is your mission? Is it being healthy? Is it being happy? Is it being a good dad? Is it being a good teammate, a good leader, being a good husband, being a good friend? You just need one thing that trumps all of it, right? That trumps the urge to drink, so you can always lean on that and be like, you know what, when push comes to shove, this is the most important thing in my life. It's not, like drinking or getting a 2-hour buzz or whatever is not more important than this, because I know how I'm going to feel the next day, and it's going to eat into, maybe it's like me doing yard work or hanging out with the kids or being present with my wife, showing up and presenting for the board. Okay. The third one's super easy, I think, is drinking nabbies, non-alcoholic beers, non-alcoholic beverages, really. And I was at a bachelor party in Lake Tahoe. And it was the first bachelor party I went to where didn't drink. Talk about like really nervous going in. And we actually went to a beer hall too, and everybody was ordering steins of beers. Like, talk about, I almost caved, right? But they had a non-alcoholic beer. And the most amazing thing happened. I ordered that and it came out in a stein, and I was there. Everybody was drinking alcohol. I had a non-alcoholic one. And I felt totally part of the crew. There was no part of me that thought I was an outsider because I wasn't drinking. Some of them were really supportive. Some of them were a little judgy. Didn't really matter. Like, once I had that in my hand, I felt just like, oh my gosh, I feel so part of it. I feel so included. And that's really when it clicked to me. I'm like, man, it's not about me drinking a specific type of liquid in a cup in order to fit in. It's all just in my head. And if I can get over these blocks and these limitations that are keeping me feeling separate from others and not accepted, not part of the crew, not loved by others, then I'm free to do whatever I want. And so what's amazing is after that experience, I actually didn't even need that anymore. I could get water and feel totally fine. Okay. The fourth thing is communicate ahead of time with your friends. Like, let them know. Be like, hey man, I know we're going to this dinner. I just want to let you know I'm working on this thing. I'm really trying to do well with alcohol. I'm trying to cut back. My health is super important. I got to get up early tomorrow. I'm really going for this next promotion at work. Like, hey, I want to, we're hanging out with the kids or whatever it is, but communicate ahead of time and let them know from an honest and a vulnerable state that, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is why it's important to me. And some will not only support you, but will join you in that. And, one of the tough part is you may have friends that, that don't support it. And that's part of that social environment and that audit, and making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the type of people that are inspiring you, that are encouraging you, and that are supporting you to become the person that you really, really want to be. The person that deep down you're capable of being. Okay, so by communicating ahead of time, people receive that well. People want to support you. The right people in your life will be like, hell yeah. You're like on a mission to do something. I support that. Okay. And I just want to share too since doing this for 750 days, what has blown my mind, maybe more than anything, is actually how many people don't drink. And the more I get away from the bar scene and the nightlife, the more all this other stuff opens up. All these other opportunities, the more people I meet who also quit or just drink maybe once a month, it's not important to them. And it's just amazing. And the level of connection that I've been able to get to with certain people has really been incredible. And I just want you to remember something as well. None of this matters unless you actually want to change. Unless there's a part of you that is saying like, man, how I've been living is clearly not working, and I need to mix something up. And if you're even watching this, right, especially if you've gotten to this point, I know there's a part of you that is curious about it and wants to change, but you've gotta want it. Okay, nobody else is gonna do it for you. And my last tip, and really the ultimate secret to lasting change in any part of our life, but the real way that I changed everything is I changed my relationship with myself. So I pointed to a lot of this during the video, but how did I think about myself? What did I need to start believing and feeling and thinking in order to show up in a social environment, in a wedding, and be totally comfortable not drinking, not worry about peer pressure, not feel like I need to be socially lubricated, okay? So you can start by asking yourself a few questions. What are the 5 most important things in your life? The most important things in your life. I doubt alcohol is going to reach that list. Next one is, what are you willing to do to feel your best, to achieve the goals you want? To be a better husband, the best father, be a leader in the community. Okay, what are you willing to do to get there? What do you need to believe about yourself? What thoughts do you need to have? What do you need to believe about society, about life, about alcohol, about like, what's your philosophy on life? You can think about it that way. What do you need to give up? Negative thinking, certain friends that hold you back, social circles, maybe it's other vices, maybe it's stressing so much, maybe it's just how you show up in certain situations. What do you need to give up? And the counterpoint to that is, what trade-offs are you not willing to do? What are you not willing to give up quite yet? And what are you willing to make in terms of a trade-off? What are you willing to substitute? And start there. And just start with one day. See what happens. Remember, you can do anything. You can do anything for 30 days. It's possible. I believe in you.